Hi, this is Vicki with craftingforfun.blogspot.com. I'm excited to show you today how I made this adorable little file folder style camera card. It's very simple to make and it uses the envelope punch board. And at the end of this video I'm going to show you how I created a matching envelope to go with this card. This card is very simple to make and only uses a few paper supplies, so let me show you the tools and supplies you'll need. To make this card, you'll need a piece of cardstock. I'm using basic black and it measures 5 inches by 7 inches. I have scored my cardstock in half at 3.5 so that when I fold the cardstock, I end up with a card that measures 3.5 by 5. You'll also need a piece of patterned or designer paper that measures 1 1/4 inches by 5 inches. And then you'll need some scraps of additional cardstock for embellishment. I'm using gray, red, and white. In addition to the paper supplies, you'll need a paper trimmer. You'll need an envelope punch board. This is the Stampin' Up! Punch board, but there's also one made by We Are Memory Keepers that is very similar. And you'll need some punches. I'm going to use the 1 3/4 inch punch, circle punch, the 1 1/4 inch circle punch. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch circle punch, and then I'm going to use a small star punch. If you don't have these exact size punches, just check and see what you have in your stash that is similar in size and experiment with it. All you're trying to do is create the look of a camera. So I'm going to move my paper pieces aside and bring in my envelope punch board and show you how I made this card. So when you're punching this, you're going to be punching through 2 layers of cardstock. So you're going to need to press firmly in order to make your punch go all the way through. With the open side of the card at the top, you're going to line the left-hand edge up with 1 1/2 inches, and you're going to punch all the way through both layers. Then you're going to take your card out and you're going to flip it over, and again you're going to insert it with the open edges at the top and the left-hand side lined up with 1 1/2 inches, and punch again. That's going to create a little notch in the center. What we're going to do now is we're going to remove our envelope punch board, and we'll bring it back later to finish the card, but right now we're going to trim some. So I'm going to bring in a paper trimmer. Now, my paper trimmer, this particular one, has a wire that shows me exactly where the cutting track is. On some paper trimmers, that wire is not present, and if not, you're going to need to look very carefully at your paper trimmer, because what you're going to want to do is line the track up with the lowest point in these little valleys here, because you're trying to trim off the piece on either side, but to leave the tab in the center. So I'm going to lay mine down. And I'm going to trim one side, and then I'm going to go to the other side and trim again. And what I have is just the little tab in the center left. Now, if you don't think that yours are straight enough, or you have a little, like a little notch piece that's left there, you can always take your scissors and just remember to be very cautious with how much you trim off. It's always easier to go back and take more off, but you can't add it back on. So I'm going to get rid of those scraps there and move my trimmer aside. So I have my basic camera shape now. So I'm going to bring my envelope punch board back, because on the back side of my envelope punch board there's a corner rounder, and I'm going to want to round all 4 corners on this camera card. So I'm going to put it in there and punch. Get it all the way in there. Okay, so I have all 4 corners. So I have my basic camera shape ready to go. So now I'm going to get my other little pieces that I needed. I'm going to take this strip that is 1 1/4 wide by 5 inches long, and I'm going to apply some adhesive on the back. And I'm just using snail adhesive. And I'm going to actually put that about approximately 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of the card. Just make sure, eyeball it, but make sure it's straight. I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to take my gray scrap and my 1 3/4 inch circle punch, and I'm going to punch 1 circle. That's going to be part of my viewfinder. I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back of that, and I'm going to center that up with my little notch right on the front of my card. Then I'm going to take my white scrap and my 1 1/4 punch, and punch one circle. And for this one, I want to give it a little dimension, so I'm going to put a dimensional on the back, a foam dimensional. Kind of pop it up a little bit, put it right in the center. And then I also need this white scrap to punch one 1/2 inch circle. Make my little flash at the top. And I'm going to just put some snail adhesive on the back of that and stick it right up here on the right hand side. And to give that a little sparkle, I'm going to add a jewel, a rhinestone. Just using my pokey tool to kind of pick it up there. Oops. Right in the center. And now I'm going to take my small heart punch and punch a scrap of red and use some snail adhesive to put it right on my viewfinder. My little card is essentially done. Now you'll notice that I've added a liner to the inside of my other card, and I just stamped a little sentiment. I went through my stash and found all kinds of sentiments that seem to have like a camera reference to them, like some that say smile or say cheese or oh snap, and I stamped those on little pieces of paper that measure 2 7/8 by 4 3/4, and those fit perfectly inside to make little liners. So my card is essentially done, but now I want to make an envelope to match. So let me show you what I have here. I have an envelope that I created to perfectly match this card by using the same pattern paper. It takes a piece that is 7 1/4 by 7 1/4 inches, and since this has a busy pattern on it, I used a label shape to make a place to write my address or my name on, just out of white paper, and put that on the front. But this envelope fits this little card perfectly. And by the way, this card measures 3 1/2 by 5 when it's completed. So it just slips right inside there. But for today, I am going to show you how to make this envelope, and I find that it is easier to demonstrate using solid colored cardstock. So I'm going to make an envelope like this red envelope, which also looks adorable with this card. So let me gather my supplies here, and I will show you how I made the envelope. I have my envelope punch board and my cardstock that measures 7 1/4 by 7 1/4. I'm going to lay that on my envelope punch board, and I'm going to move it over so the left hand side is even with the 3-inch mark. And I'm going to punch. And I'm going to take the little bone folder that comes with the scoring board, and I'm going to score along the score line. Now I'm not going to worry about those measurements at the top anymore, because for all of my other measurements, I'm going to line this little score guide that is part of the tool up with the score line that I just created. So it's lined up. I'm going to punch and score. I'm going to turn, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line the score line that I just created up with the score guide. I'm going to punch and score. Then I'm going to do it one more time. It's kind of hard for me to see with the lighting. I'm going to punch and I'm going to score. And now I am finished with this tool, so I can set it aside. I'm going to fold on all of my score lines. I'm going to use my bone folder here to get nice sharp creases. Now, I fold those small flaps on the side in and the large bottom flap up, and you can leave it just like that, but I don't particularly care for the look of that point. So what I like to do is I just lay it down and I just turn that point up a little bit. I take my bone folder and kind of burnish it down, and then I get a little bit more finished look. Now I can go back and cut that point off, but what I usually do is just take a little adhesive and tack it down. And then to complete the envelope, I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive right along the bottom edge there, and then just seal it shut. So I'm going to bring back my card here, slip my little card in the envelope, and close it up. That would make an adorable gift. You can make a set of these for like a teenage girl, and I think those would be great little gift cards for her. So if you have any questions about this project, please email me at craftingforfun@gmail.com, and I hope you enjoyed today's project, and I'll see you back here soon.